All right, Sag. So this week, these two cards for me, I have to tell you immediately when I pulled them, I felt like this is only going to apply to a few. But for some reason, there's going to be somebody out here that needs to hear this. Now, for me, it's not normal for Sag, but this may apply in different ways, but we'll get into this. So this week, Sagittarius, from Lay Vampire, you pulled Immortal, the consuming family and pressure of peers. And then from Chakra Wisdom, you pulled Victim. Now, Immortal, the blessing here says that you are beyond the definitions of the family or the adopted family. You are more than they say you are, more than they allow you to be, and more than you have permitted yourself to be when in their orbit. Now, the curse is one of the things that stood out for me too when it talks about, you needing to undertake a voyage of discovery into your own self, right? Instead of holding on to the limited definitions of yourself that are like being put on you by people that are around you, right? Because again, you are beyond those definitions. Now, working with this card says, remember, you are your own person. You can create your own life. You are free and obligations can now fall away. Now, what I worry about here is where Victim comes in. Now, when you're looking at the card at a glance, it says that this is an indication that you may need grounding and a more solid plan to achieve what you truly desire. Are you trying to create something before you are ready to do so? The inspiration says that being in denial may be holding you back. To move forward, you must make an honest assessment of your situation. But it was the personal question and the key ideas that kind of stuck out with me in connection to Immortal. Now, the personal question says, how are my actions connected to my inability to create breakthroughs? Am I willing to make new choices in order to grow? The key ideas are feeling blocked and blaming others, past resentment, diluting yourself in potential for greatness. Now, blaming others and then talking about making new choices is what stuck out. So for some Saggies, I think that, if you are surrounded by people who have a lot of opinions on how you should be living your life, basically, if you're not thinking for yourself and creating your life the way that you choose here, that's where the victim mentality comes in, where there is like this need to revert back to blaming others for why you are in the situation you're in now, because you may have listened to, somebody else who had their own idea on how you should create your life. All right, Sag, here we go. Here's the energy coming through, the Two of Coins. So for some of you, it's going to be juggling out finances. It's going to be doing the balancing act and working things out. How do I fit this into everything that's going on? I kind of felt financial right off the bat. It doesn't feel really bad, but, my problem with the Two of Coins is, that for me, it feels like, I don't want to be constantly in that balancing act. But the beauty with this card is it's saying that you have the ability to do this. You're able to be flexible and move with the changes that are happening and keep everything going. That's kind of where the sign of infinity comes in when you're looking at the Two Pentacles, right? Like you're able to continue this. But, you continuously doing that can lead to, you getting overwhelmed or tired. I've always said, when do you get to the point where you're like, fuck it, and you just let things drop? Now, in the past, the Ace of Wands, very nice. So, just between the two, it's not bad. When you're looking at the Ace of Wands, it is a new passionate beginning, new creative ideas. But it's beautiful energy for you, especially a lot of passion here. And it may be that with this coming through, it may be difficult for you to figure out how to like balance that into everything else that you're already having to manage. And in the present, wow, the Three of Wands. So, and here again, when you're talking about, first of all, you have the Ace of Wands, which is the new beginning. You have the Two of Coins. When you're looking at the twos, it is talking about decisions. When you get into the threes, you start to see manifestation. When you're looking at the Three of Wands, it's suggesting that you took the right action and now you're waiting to see how things are going to develop. You know, but the big thing for me with the Three of Wands is you should already know what to expect, because these are the things that you have set into motion. You know, but it's a period of like waiting. You know, some of you may be waiting for that new beginning. You know, for some of you, it's waiting to see how it's going to play out. You know, and there's still things right now that you're still having to, you know, kind of manage and balance out with the Two of Coins. Future conditions, the Eight of Coins, and, you know, that looks good, but you're going to be busting your ass, you know, working hard. The Eight of Coins, though, normally suggests that this is somebody who is enjoying what they're doing, but it's saying that there is like a lot of focus on work. You know, and that may be where the balancing act is coming in, especially if, you know, you're having to work your ass off every day. But, you know, with the Ace of Wands coming through, I feel like a pull between both. It's like, you know, you have this opportunity here with the Ace of Wands. You have the Three of Wands where you're waiting to see, but in the meantime, you're having to, like, you know, bust your ass, go to work every day, pay the bills, manage the day-to-day, yada, yada, right? But right now, it's, you know, wanting to see how it's going to play out. Now, with the Ace of Wands, it could have to do with new work. It could be a new relationship, you know, but it is the new beginning. But there is passion there, which, again, I think is perfect for you. You know, but I'm going back to this Eight of Coins going, okay, so they're going to be putting in a lot of work here. You know, but the payoff with the Eight of Coins is really good. You know, the results that you see through the work that you're doing is like fantastic. You know, and it's also saying that you're willing to put in the effort into what you are wanting to do here with this Ace of Wands. Your best path to follow. Yeah. The Eight of Cups. So, you know, you get to a point here where, you know, you start working toward this new passion that you have coming through. But when you're looking at the Eight of Cups here, it's saying that, you know, there's going to be some things that you're going to have to set aside. And that's the other thing that I've always said with the Two of Coins. You got to kind of figure out what you can kind of put off to the side for a minute. You know, it's not that you're dropping it. You know, the whole point is to kind of look at, you know, okay, I've got all these things going on. What can I set aside here that I can deal with later? And in terms of the Eight of Cups being underneath that and as your best path to follow, basically what it's saying is that if you're juggling out things that are no longer fulfilling you, it's time to move away from that now. You know, and stop putting so much emotional investment in something that you know is no longer fulfilling you. You know, and that's where the decision starts to come in with the Two of Coins, especially if you're still like balancing out something that, you know, really you should be moving away from. You know, the problem with the Eight of Coins is or the Eight of Cups, you're talking about the word abandonment that's attached to that card, right? You know, and I can understand why people continue to work at things that just keep, you know, draining them emotionally and dragging them down. And it's because you don't want to abandon it, you know. And I don't think that that's what you're doing. I think what Spirit is trying to tell you here is that, you know, if you're still juggling out shit that is not fulfilling you, it's time to put it aside, you know, but don't feel like you're just dropping it. In your environment, very nice, very, very nice. The Ten of Cups, happiness and emotional fulfillment, and it looks really good. And that is what you're waiting to see start to develop here with the Three of Wands. And it looks beautiful, especially with that Ace of Wands coming through. It's just, you know, managing things out and fitting it into your life. But whatever it is, there's a lot of happiness there, a lot of happiness. Your hopes and your fears, and there again is the decision. What is it that, you know, you know what it is. You know, and it's funny because the hands are tied. You feel like your hands are tied in this situation, but truly they're not. You know, it's just needing to make that difficult decision here to, you know, let this go. You know, whatever it is that, you know, is no longer fulfilling for you, because what you're trying to do is make room for this. which looks really good. It's just that, again, that's where the feeling comes in with the word abandonment. You can't allow yourself to get into that mental pattern where you think you're abandoning things, because you're not truly, if what, you've been juggling out is not fulfilling you, right? It's time to like set that aside now, but it can be difficult to do with the Two of Swords. And, again, I'm looking at the hands tied, like you feel like your hands are tied in this situation. It's like you feel like you have no choice, but still you're working toward the passion, the new beginning. It's just making room for it, needing to work out here how it's going to fit in. And then the outcome, the Page of Coins. And I like it because to me, it's basically saying here that, you're learning. You're learning something new here. And again, it's hard work, right? But you're learning, new ways of managing things here with the Two of Coins. Now, the Page of Coins, to me is, first of all, the student. That's where the learning comes in. But it's also somebody who is willing to do the hard work that's necessary to, get to where they want. It's a little bit different than the Knight of Coins, where, he's methodical in the things that they're doing. I think the Page of Coins is a little bit more open when it comes to learning how to, deal with things in a different way. And it's good. It's just, I see a lot of hard, tedious work, on top of, the new passion that's coming through. But, your focus is in a good spot here with the Page of Coins. Okay. So basically what this is saying when I'm looking at it as the outcome, first of all, past, present, future. My problem with, the Three of Swords is that for you, this hard work and constantly having to manage things out is going to be like heartbreaking. And then again, you feel like your hands are tied in a situation that you need to move away from. And it's the separation. It is the separation, but the thoughts around it aren't good. When you're looking at the Four of Cups coming out of this, again, it's emotional apathy. And knowing that you may be investing too much time into something that is emotionally dragging you down. You have to be careful about that. The Four of Cups for me, blah. It's blah. Yuck. You don't want to continue here to put so much effort into something that is just breaking you. But you feel like your hands are tied in this situation with that Two of Swords. It drives me nuts looking at it. But the Four of Cups, I think, is a warning to you coming out of this. If you know that, what you're spending time with here is not fulfilling for you, you're going to get to the point where you're just bored with it. And that is where you need to like break yourself of this idea that your hands are tied in this situation. And again, it's a lot easier said than done, especially when you're dealing with work and finances, things like that, or even relationships. Anybody can tell you, you just need to walk away. You just need to walk away. It's not always that easy, especially when it comes to thoughts as well, between that 2 and the 3. And then looking at the 8, there's emotional backing with it too. I would just be careful, Sag, because you don't want to get to the point here with the Four of Cups where you're just like in a funk. Because you continue to, it's almost like you continue to think that if you like keep doing this tedious, like backbreaking work, it'll eventually work out here. But it's Spirit saying no. Oh boy. All right, Sag. We're going to take a look at the soul trees to see what other messages there are for you guys. I just think that, it is a difficult decision. It is very difficult, especially when you feel like you're stuck with it, and I kind of get that here from the Two of Swords. But you got to be careful, because emotionally you're just going to be in a funk if you don't deal with it, Emotional apathy and boredom and just like blah. There's got to be something better. There's got to be something better. And it's there, and there's a lot of happiness attached to it. And it's in your environment right now. I just think that there's something else that you need to work out here and move away from. But again, easier said than done, right? Initiative, take the initiative. Play, yes. And psychic knowing, damn it, you know. Psychically, you know what it is that you have to stop investing so much damn time with. And you know that you need to play and you need to take the initiative to have a little bit of fun. You know, because it's there with that Ace of Wands and that Ten of Cups. I'm telling you, there's a lot of happiness with this new passionate beginning. You know, and for some of you, you may be in the waiting period here, but in the meantime, it's like there are other things that you need to deal with here. But again, right, easier said than done. I keep feeling like, you know, you can't see the way out. You know, and it bothers me because for Sag to be kind of stuck in that situation here, it can be difficult to take the initiative to deal with it and to get back into that playful energy, which is so inherent with Sagittarius. I mean, you know, the play, it to me is like perfect for you guys. But psychically, you know what you need to do. All right, Sag, we're going to take a look at Whispers of Love to see what messages there are for you guys to attract some love into your life. The only thing that is real is love. Shift your focus from the problem back to love. And then slow down. When you are excited, you get ahead of yourself. Take some time to allow things to unfold. So, you know, when it comes to relationships, you don't want to move too fast, especially when you have other things that you feel like you're tied down in. You know, and then, of course, the only thing that is real is love, right? You don't want to stay focused on the problem when it comes to relationships. You need to go back to that feeling of love and play, right? Slow down, take some time to smell the roses, right? And have a little bit of fun, Sag, because, you know, I worry that here with the outcome, and again, nothing is ever set in stone here, but I worry that you're going to work yourself into a spot where you're just, you know, breaking your own heart here, and emotionally you're going to be in a bad spot. You know, so slow down, enjoy life, right? Take some time with the person that you love. You know, and remember that there is a lot of happiness and a lot of passion with you right now. All right, Sag, so what bothers me about this is that I feel like some of you are trying to balance out how happiness is going to fit into your life. You know, and it's got kind of a sad feeling around this. Now, you know, again, it's easy for anybody to tell you, you need to walk away. You just need to walk away. You just need to walk away, right? But it may not be that easy because I think that you feel like your hands are tied in this situation. Like literally, you know? And I feel like you guys have busted your ass to get to where you're at, right? But I think that for some of you, the reason why you're seeing this sequence play out is because, you know, you've really like done all this tedious work here. You know, you have talents and skills, but I don't think you're getting the recognition you deserve here with the Three of Swords, and it's just breaking you. And then you come out with the Four of Cups where there's this emotional blah, which makes sense. You know, now nothing is ever set in stone here, but damn it, you know, I think what you need to start balancing out here is, you know, how much time are you putting into work and how much time are you putting into your own happiness? Because, you know, the kicker is that psychically you know that you need to take the initiative to start playing, right? Because it's so important for Sag. You're so charming, you're so fun to be around. If Sag can't be playful, there's something wrong. And I just think that for some of you, you're like weighed down by work. And the kicker to this is that you're waiting to see how this new passionate beginning is going to work out for you. Because there's happiness, and there is happiness attached to this, you know? It's just the sad part is you're figuring out how to try to balance it in your life. And now I can understand why Immortal and Victim is showing up for some of you. It's like you feel pressure. And there may be resentment with Victim here because you're having to go through this. You know, but Spirit's trying to tell you that I think that, first of all, you need to get rid of like the mental thought here that you're abandoning something. You know, you don't want to stay in that mental pattern. You don't want to be stuck with it, right? You're not abandoning things that are no longer fulfilling for you. You know, you may think that your hands are tied, but you can figure out a way, right? But again, easier said than done. So I kind of understand why your outcome is playing out the way it is. But, you know, and then here too, the only thing that the only thing that is real is love, right? Like, seriously. And then slow down and play and enjoy life, you know. You're going to have to figure out this work situation here and what you're putting so much effort into, especially if it's just breaking you. Because I would hate to see, you know, Sagittarius getting to this point here where just you feel emotionally blah with everything. You know, but again, it's not set in stone. It is not set in stone, right? And for some of you, it's just a warning that there's things that you're going to have to deal with here. Because you shouldn't have to try to figure out how to fit this happiness into your life. Like, it should just be automatic.